Ryan? A shocked whisper left his trembling lips as he saw her delicate figure drenched in. He dashed towards her, and the killer behind her yanked from her shoulder, causing her to gasp and stagger forward with a jerk. She was about to collapse on the floor, but the killer wanted to accomplish the task thoroughly, so he raised his again to stab her. Jackie, on the other hand, approached them with the speed of light and grabbed her by the waist, then stretched his other arm and grabbed the killer's wrist so brutally that bone-shattering noises were heard as the killer screamed in pain and crouched down to the ground. He couldn't even shift into his wolf due to pain. He tried to break free from Jackie's grip so he could run away, but Jackie only tightened his grip around his already broken wrist, showing him the terror of his brutal mind. But his grip loosened when Ryan took a deep, painful breath while clutching his shirt in her face. Jungkook let go of his wrist completely as his attention was drawn to Ryan, and he placed his palm on a fresh wound and applied pressure to stop the bleeding, causing her to let out a loud gasp and streams of tears left from her already half-closed eyes. At this point, Jungkook didn't care about the killer and his attempts to escape. He unbuttoned his shirt, removed it, wrapped it tightly around her shoulders, and hurriedly stood up, lifting her in his arms. Tried to escape from the back door, Jeon simply stood in front of him and smiled before knocking him out with a single blow on the head. The killer was then carried to the basement by guards for additional treatments. After 2 hours, Wine was being treated at Jeon's very own emergency hospital, which was built within their royal palace. Jungkook's POV. Sitting beside her, holding her hand in mine, she was laying unconscious on her stomach as doctors were treating her deep wound. I didn't leave her side even for a single second, as I can't take risks regarding her safety now. I'm already feeling guilty for not trusting her. When she said she felt someone was in her room, I shouldn't have left her alone. A tear landed on her hand and I quickly wiped it away before anyone can notice it, but she jolted a little and slightly opened her eyes, causing me to let out a breath I hadn't realized I had been holding for too long. Finally, exhaled in relief. After a few hours, she was fully treated and now was resting. I was sitting in front of her staring at her like my life depends on it. What are you doing to me, Ryan? Why you feel like my only reason to survive? Why you look like a worthy reason to die for? Why you look like my only priority? You give me indescribable feeling and I hated in the past, but now I feel like this is the only feeling I can feel properly. Hush, you're making me crazy. That's because you are. Sighs and rolls his eyes, unnerved by his own wolf. This is not the time to joke. Who said I'm joking? Jungkook simply ignored him and continued staring at Wine, examining the closed wound, choking marks on her neck, and bruises on her thin wrists. He was checking her like it's not her but his body. He clenched his jaws in anger and vowed to demolish everyone who is behind this vile act. Jin entered the room after knocking and said, "How is Luna?" Looks at Wine with soft eyes after seeing her sleeping soundly despite being all brutal. Beautiful, isn't she? Softly smiled, yet tension was evident in his expression. Nodded but soon sighed. That killer. He's from her old pack. Went back. Jungkook turned his head towards Jin in shock. Totally understandable move from the pathetic creatures like them. Gritted his teeth in anger. How did he get inside? When our rooms are in hidden side of the palace. He's unconscious right now. We'll interrogate him further when he'll wake. Someone from our pack might have helped him. spoke angrily and glared into space as his eyes turned blood red. JK glanced at Wine and cautiously drew his hand out of her grip. He placed her hand on the bed delicately as if he was holding something made of glass. He adjusted her blanket on her and finally turned to face Jeon. Sent Sabrina Nuna to look after Wine and tighten security around her chamber and palace. Not even an insect should enter her room without my permission. You have ordered in authoritative tone and Jin complied. Jungkook stormed out of the room followed by Jin. The palace was guarded by June guards who were on high alert. Jungkook entered the dark basement where the strong stench in the air was telling the true story of his cruel nature. Jungkook closed his eyes and took a deep breath, knowing that if he didn't calm down now, he may kill that bastard before getting any information out of him. JK approached his unconscious figure and hot boiling water hit that intruder's face like hot oil and he woke up screaming his lungs out. June guards passed JK a file containing this man's info. Rise and shine, Mr. Ben. Addressed that man with respect right after pouring hot water on him. Whimpers in pain. Don't wanna talk to me? Softly asked. That's fine. Guard, bring me seat. Face went expressionless. Galton shook his head frantically. Please, no. Please. He began shivering hard, looking at guards bringing what JK ordered them to. You are my guest, and I can't let you go without entertaining you, especially since you are from the pack of my in-laws. Smugs. Ben struggled in his seat to break out from the chains. Guard placed another chair in front of Ben and JK sat like a king, one leg on top of the other. JK reached out and caressed Ben's hand. You stabbed her with this hand, right? Spoke with gritted teeth while his eyes went dark, but his tone was normal, making him look like a psycho. I'm sorry, please no, please don't do this. I have kids at home, cried in fear. Should I involve them in this matter as well? Dug his nail in Ben's hand and asked while raising an eyebrow. No, I did not mean that, yelled in pain and dread. Chuckled slightly. You should have thought about the outcome before entering this palace and hurting her. Intensely stared at him, his expression showing no sign of mercy. JK took the bucket of acid from the guard and poured it slowly onto Ben's hand. His shrieks echoed throughout the basement, and the sound could most likely be heard from the outside as well. Jungkook burst out laughing as if he were watching a comedy skit as he watched Ben screaming like a lunatic. Ben's screams were replaced by sobs and whimpers after 10 minutes. Who ordered you to do this? Casually asked if they are having a friendly conversation. Ben remained silent, so Jungkook took that bucket again and extended it towards Ben's other hand, which was bound to the chair's handle. Ben panicked and spoke. Tell you, please, I'll tell you. Breathed heavily while whispered being exhausted. What are you waiting for? Waiting for me to pour it again? Her own father, alpha of our pack. Jungkook's heartbeat stopped for a moment after hearing that Wine's own father wants her dead. He glared at Ben, indicating him to continue. He wants her dead at any cost, as she has become lonely. For a brief while, Jungkook remained silent. Who helped you? Rolled angrily. No one. JK clipped his tongue and chuckled sarcastically, knowing Ben was lying. He gestured the guard and they covered Ben's face with black cloth, suddenly poured freezing cold water on him and began striking him with bats from all angles. Before Ben could get unconscious, JK gestured his man to stop. They removed the cloth from his face and Jungkook took his hair in his fist and hardly yanked his face up to face. I'll attack you, and especially your family in a special way. So if you don't want that, then tell me who helped you. Jerked his head roughly and tightened his hold on. Jeon and his eyes rolled back and he passed out. JK left his hair and stood straight motionless. Jeon and his own youngest uncle and aunt. He did not expect this from him. He turned around and went out of the basement and stood in the balcony to digest all the shit. Someone placed a warm hand on his shoulder and Jungkook looked to the side, clearly knowing who the person is. Everything will be alright. Yeah, everything will be alright after I lose my everything. Sighs frustratingly. With great power comes great responsibility. Jungkook, you are a great alpha. I know you can handle this situation. Encouraged JK. Her own people want her dead. My people want her dead. But what exactly did she do? Nothing. She is innocent. Spoke, feeling her pain. It might sound harsh, but she is in this condition because of you. JK frowned and confusedly stared at Jin. She is your mate, and your families are sworn enemies, and you also forced her to be with you. So what else should I do? She is my mate, and they killed my mother. Ah! Screamed in frustration and banged his hand on the railing. I'm going insane. You have to force her once again. Huh? Faced Jin. Marry her and mark her. JK bit his lips, thinking hard. If you want to save her, then make her yours, so that everyone knows that she belongs to you, and punish the culprit so that no one dares to mess with you. In Vine's room, Sabrina was continuously wiping Vine's forehead with cold wet cloth as Vine was having high fever, but she was conscious now. Vine was not talking, instead was staring blankly at the ceiling. Sabrina turned her head towards the door as Jungkook entered the room, but Vine did not react. Sabrina stood up from her seat and quietly went out of the room to give them space. Jungkook sat on the bed beside Vine, and she finally moved. But she only moved to get away from him, making him feel even worse because what he is about to do will hurt more now.